Is he like coming to
Let's go ahead. I said just go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Very late.
Okay, we get started. I know we're a few minutes late. We have a lot on the plate for finance, so patience. We'll call the city council work session for Monday, October 3rd to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon?
Here.
Brackman?
Here.
Aruba? Here. Reynolds?
Present.
Faulkner?
Here.
Eklund? Here. DeHarsa?
Here.
Russell?
Here.
And President Dolson.
Here. Thank you. At this time, give opportunity for the public to comment. If anybody would like to speak, please state your name and address and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. You may now speak.
I just wanted to know, I missed last meeting, and just wondering what's going on with if they have the committee for the deer.
You need to identify your name and address.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I wrote his name down. because I know-
Robert Sisley, 20 Barker Street, Jamestown, New York, 14701. And I'm just wondering if they've got a committee set up or anything for the deer population in Jamestown.
We spoke with myself and Mr. Russell, and Mr. Faulkner, us three, along with Brent Sheldon. We are going to be forming, or not forming, but having a meeting soon.
Is it gonna be too late for this year?
Absolutely. Deer season started today, both seasons. So that nothing will take place until the next hunting season. But I believe today was the opening day of our
October 1st.
Yeah, October 1st.
Actually, you know, I've had a couple conversations with people in the community and some very good suggestions about having a corporation counsel or another attorney about the liabilities to the city, having someone who's in favor of it from the community, someone who has other ideas, as we had someone here last week who talked about other options. I think maybe if you have a more inclusive group than just council members,
Sure.
and not just the hunters that plan to do it. I think that was part of the issue the last time, we just had the bow hunter group. So maybe having a more diverse committee of people might also help whatever is decided, that the community has some input from all sides.
Yeah, that was the plan, that.
Okay, I don't know, because I've.
Yeah, we discussed that briefly
Okay.
about having, maybe 1 or 2 citizens on also, along, of course, with the DEC and such.
But yeah, I think you need to hear the other side too. There are people that
The
are
other
strongly in
side.
favor, people that are
Mhm.
strongly against,
Mhm.
and, what options are out there.
I spoke to a gentleman recently who has a 500 acre, it's basically a hunting preserve. And we were, I was kind of picking his mind on the issue in the city. And, his professional opinion, he's been doing this many years, is that he felt that there should be some sort of hunt. He offered his expertise to get involved in the committee or at least speak and discuss some possible ideas on how it could be handled. So I would like to speak to him again and see if he would like to be brought in.
And that's appropriate, and but I don't know that we had all of that input from.
He is involved in all kinds of things, obviously from the hunting aspect to fertility stuff. He is well known and knows a lot of people and would be a wealth of knowledge.
No, I appreciate it, because as I say, when the last time we did this, I don't think there was a broad enough group to really
Sure.
to get a buy-in from the community.
To make a suggestion that we move forward, at least get people together. So, I mean, I know that the season just started, but if something was going to be done.
And I know Mr. Steve has been here a couple times, even from his first time being here, it wasn't going to be feasible to do it this year. It would be able to move that quickly with tags and to get this together. So I think we all knew that if this is going to take place, we come up with a plan, if it's approved, that it would be for next year's season.
Is there any suggestions we can make that might make it happen this year?
No, I'm not gonna speak for the whole council, I'm not gonna speak for the mayor or Mr. Romano, but I just, from having a hunting background, and what needs to take place is, it's not feasible for it to happen this year. Bow season's going on now, gun season will start here in, middle of November, first couple weeks in November, and it's just, it can't happen that fast. It's just not.
When is your next meeting gonna
It's
be?
not logistically possible to have a hunt this season.
I might add, at our last meeting, we had someone speak to council about, different avenues to take and tackle the deer problem. Not, a herd wipeout, so to speak, but different plants, different brush, bushes, all kinds of different antidotes to alleviate it without a hunt. And I don't know, Jen, you got copies of all that somebody might be able to get from
It was, I think it was, she emailed some,
Miss
she emailed,
Helfeld?
and then today Jen did some other things.
Yeah. No, I meant
Oh, for the,
for the public.
She spoke, last night too, and gave and provided us information, a lot of the same sort of information. You know, like President Bill said, we're not going to solve this issue this evening, and when we do meet, you know, we'll let you know.
Yeah, maybe you can get a hold of
I'm in contact with her, and I'll be sure, yes. We will look it up.
thank you. Anybody else?
Actually, I got a lot to talk about, but I know that I can't.
Doug Champ?
Doug Champ, 225 Bowen Street, Jamestown, New York, 14701. Last voting session, Councilman Russell rebutted a little bit, and I have a lot of respect for Jeff. I know him, put aside in my yard anytime. But I do want to take some point at this time to make it clear why the BPU streaming is important. And first of all, I worked there 25 years. I know the BPU in and out. In fact, I was a thorn in their side when I worked there because they wanted to stay on coal, and I said there's other options in the future. But the problem at the BPU has always been technology transfer and getting the community to understand what they do. Before Jeff was on the BPU board, I went to the BPU board and asked them to do what our mayor had done to the other committees, is to stream them to the public. This is a public utility. This is not National Grid or National Fuel, where we pay stockholders. We work for the ratepayers, which are all of us in this room. So I started this process a year ago. Am I impatient? I'm 77 years old. Yes, I'm impatient about a lot of things. I always have been. And my problem is this, is that we have 2 city council people on board. They never made a motion to have it streamed. The mayor never made a motion to have it streamed. So a citizen like me had to come forward and request this over and over and over again. So finally, after much discussion, because they didn't really conceive my odd thoughts as being a viable way of they should do this. And why do I know that? Because I worked there 25 years and I know the internal workings of a utility, that they don't want to tell everybody what they're doing. Right or wrong, public utility. So the nefarious aspect is an evil definition of what you would call flagrantly wicked or criminal. That was never my intent. My intent was bring forward, because it wasn't coming from the people that were associated with BPU. the city council reps, they've never talked about the BPU once here in this room. The mayor's never really talked about the BPU. I would think that the two city council people should give a report once a month of what the activities have been. So maybe people could understand a little bit more about what they do there. So now, after discussing and discussing and discussing this, they're finally doing this. There is no more vital organization that needs public input and information than the Board of Public Utilities. What's happening on the state level is perking on down to all of us now. Electrification in your houses, who's gonna pay for that? The BPU is a proud organization, tremendously valuable organization. Without it, the city of Jamestown wouldn't be the city of Jamestown. So my point is this, I'm not nefarious, that's not my definition. My definition has always been, information could be shared, and the knowledge of what that utility does. Nobody goes to that BPU meeting. I asked 4 city councilmen to come so they could see it. They came. They voiced that they thought this was a good idea. But only after this involvement of getting constantly reminded to them by me at the BPU that maybe they should do something about streaming the BPU meetings. The future of the city depends on its ratepayers understanding what's happening. So I would encourage that each month, one of these council people talk about what they learned at the BPU board meeting. Maybe we can focus in on the streaming, which then all you city council people can listen to on your own time. All the BPU employees can find out what happened at the meeting. People that can't go to the meetings physically, blind people, people that are unable to walk. A lot of people are involved because they pay BPU electric, water, and sanitary sewer pickup rates and waste disposal. It's vital that we understand what's coming down. Enough said about that. The chief of police made a very important statement at the public safety meeting that I think everybody should understand clearly. That at any given time, we have a 9.3 square miles in this city. There's only 3 patrol officers on beat. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. They have a command officer, you have a desk officer, and somebody in the jail. 6 people. That's it. And people talk about public safety. We talk about gun violence. We talk about the eligibility. When the SWAT team goes, and I know my guns, and they have to respond, what kind of vehicle do they respond in?
A Chevy van.
A Chevy van. How does that do against a 308 and 300 Magnum?
One.
So your officers are coming in a Chevy van. The chief has asked for a Bearcat, and that can be funded through the American Rescue Plan. You want your officers and the SWAT team addressing a violent situation in a Chevy van? Doesn't get armored protection. So I would hope that you would understand the dynamics of this when he puts this request in, that our SWAT team officers are in jeopardy going to a site that is violently prone in a Chevy van. The other thing is this. I am concerned that the city's American Rescue Plan is not focusing enough on the viability of what it was originally supposed to do. And that is, my friends, is called coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. Every project that you do has got to measure up to the coronavirus implications. Does the city have a coronavirus mitigation and prevention plan for all its qualified census tracts? Does it have one for the city? If it does, I think that should be pronounced and put in, because every single request, every single industry, every single not-for-profit should have that as a mandate before you actually approve final money.
Can you? 7 minutes.
I'm sorry, I have a lot on my mind, okay? Finally, after all this time, you're down to a lot of money spent and a little money still left. Just remember, the U.S. Treasury will audit and control what you've done. At some point in time, you'll be either looked at as compliancer, or you're looking at having problems of non-compliancy because you really didn't address the public health issue for the coronavirus. What happens 5 years from now, we get a variant that comes back to haunt us? The federal government gonna give you another 28 million? I don't think so. So I think what I've seen, and I haven't seen it, maybe these councilmen have seen it, the City of Jamestown COVID-19 mitigation and prevention plan. And don't rely on the public health people to do it all for you. You have an obligation to do it for the citizens of the City of Jamestown.
Thank you. I think that's everybody here. We'll move on to our committees report and finance committee.
First resolution was a resolution accepting a gift of money, whereas Rand Precision Machining Company has gifted the City of Jamestown Police Department $4,000 and no cents to fund a Citizens Police Academy. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Jamestown hereby accepts the donation, and be it further resolved that the City of Jamestown City Council hereby extends its appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the citizens of the City of Jamestown to Kurt W. Grimm and the employees of Rand Precision Machining Company for the generous donation. The Citizens Police Academy would commence in January of 2023, and that was approved. Resolutions 2 through 5, we did not approve out of finance. We thought they warranted a full council discussion. So the first resolution is a resolution designating $1 million and no cents in American Rescue Plan Act Healthy Communities and Neighborhood Funds for the purpose of the Land Bank Post-Pandemic Housing Initiative. Finance talked in depth a little bit about the plan that was brought back forward, that was presented by the Land Bank, and wanted to open it up at this time for anyone on council who had additional questions.
The only question or comment that I had was about the demolition part of that. That is a very important component to this. A number of condemned homes. And, I think it's last summer when we had a lot of meetings, a lot of people had talked about that. You know, we don't have a large fund for demolition, and I think we need to look at that. That was just my comment. I just want to make sure that that's an important component.
And for clarity, I think it was consensus that demolition is important, but is it something we should move internally, or is it something that we should contract out with the landlord?
That's one of my concerns. Under their proposal, they've got over $200,000 in administrative fees. If we're gonna do demos, that's quite a few demos there, and that $200,000 that they're gonna spend on admin fees. It could be done.
Any other immediate questions? I just think then we'll keep it on the agenda just as a brief for next meeting. Resolution number 3, designating $750,000 and no cents in American Rescue Plan Act Economic Development Funds for the purpose of a business expansion and building acquisition program to be administered through the Jamestown Local Development Corporation and the Jamestown Urban Renewal Corporation. Chris, I don't know if you want to give another brief overview.
Sure. Thank you, Councilwoman Eklund. This program comes out of additional need that we saw after we received applications for some of the other business grants that have been approved. Specifically, the building and property infrastructure improvement grant. Sorry, lots of different program names. There were a number of businesses that were really left out of that program simply because they didn't meet the very specific criteria that we had established. But this also, kind of opened our eyes to some additional need that our businesses in the community still have. So there is a draft, application that gives kind of the guidelines and, follows along with the, standard, that we have set with the other programs. It talks about, the purpose of the program and, additional information. So we would develop it the way we have with the others. There would be a criteria established, there would be a grading evaluation matrix, burden of proof of how the business meets ARPA guidelines, meets the shows that they have demonstrated that they have a need because of the pandemic. Would have to submit all of their financial information, very similar to some of the other programs. But the biggest difference, I guess, is there are businesses that have looked at expanding or shifting the way they do business, and there are costs that come along with that, that weren't able to be addressed with the other grant. This would allow them to do that, potentially acquiring additional property or additional space, to be able to make whatever expansions or changes to their business that they are proposing. So I don't know if there's any questions that you have, or if you wanna read what was submitted and be ready to talk about it at the next work session, or send me email or call or whatever, but happy to answer anything that I can right now.
I think all of these need to stay on for the next work session to get finalized. The concern I have, the more I think about some of the statements you've made, I'm all for helping everybody as much as we can, but my concern is, now this one is created out of other ones that people didn't meet criteria. What's gonna happen when we do this and then other people don't meet this? I mean, we're gonna eventually run out of funds here quickly, as all of us can see. So if we keep modifying program after program to touch all the needs, is there another way to look at things to make sure that things are covered, I guess? I just don't wanna get in the habit of saying, oh, we missed this group, oh, we missed this group, oh, we missed
Sure.
this group, and we're gonna now open it up again, and we're just gonna compound every time.
One other, don't go ahead, I'll let you and then I'll.
Sure, I guess just in response to that, a couple of things. One is that, we've been tasked with spending the money and proposing programs to spend the money, because we have a limited time within which to do so. And the clock is ticking, and every day that goes by that we don't have funds allocated, it takes, as you all know, it takes a long time for us to get programs from concept to developed to actually getting the money out into the community. So we will continue to propose programs, but we are also very open to receiving any suggestions that any of you have. If there's something that you think would be valuable, or you have ideas that you feel are better than what we've come up with, by all means, please do share those with us. I guess the other part to that is, we tried to do our due diligence at the beginning before we started to develop these programs. We did have business roundtables, but I think that as time has gone on, businesses have also gone through an evolution, and needs that they didn't know they had maybe 6 months ago when we developed original programs, they are starting to find that they have now. So I think that our hope is to be able to adapt to the needs of our business community and what they're telling us, and so that's where these programs are coming from.
Truly understand that, and I guess the moral of my point isn't just you. In general, are we missing the boat on gun violence and on public safety and on issues that are extremely COVID related, that we're just continuing to divest into offshoots of programs? I mean, the SWAT man is a prime example. We said no initially, and now there's gun violence. Should we be revisiting that before the dollar's gone? That's my point.
Sure, and that's certainly a conversation that is, up to all of you. I'll continue to fight for every dollar, to go through our department and to go to our businesses, because that's what my job is.
Get it, respect that.
So.
I want business expansion, acquisition of buildings, et cetera. Now, one thing is mentioned about the Americans with Disabilities Act and compliance with those requirements of making the properties accessible, especially if they're going to input that amount of money.
Sure.
It really needs to be addressed or looked at if it's feasible to do that within this context of the application.
I will take that back to my team and we will look at that and make some adjustments to make sure that we make that a focus. I think it certainly would be through code
Right.
anyway, and what code requirements are, but I think that you have a very valid point, and we will make sure that that is highlighted.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question, under purpose of the program, it states, the purpose of the business expansion and building acquisition program is to provide business owners with capital to assist with necessary improvements to buildings that were purchased as part of business expansion plans during the 2-year COVID pandemic. So are you saying that this program was to pass and be implemented, that it would only include businesses that purchased buildings during the 2-year COVID pandemic? Am I reading that correctly? So the only ones that would be eligible for this are persons or businesses that purchased buildings during the 2-year period.
Yeah, I understand your question. It is a little bit, it could be clarified a bit more. So,
It just
no,
seems
not
that
necessarily.
it's very laser focused
Yeah.
on.
No, not necessarily. It's really meant to be, businesses who either did or are looking at purchasing or expand their footprint, whether that's expand into additional space, whatever type of, I guess, expansion. So they may have, or they may be looking to. So no, it's not meant to be laser focused in on just
So
those
you're talking
within
maybe
that
some of the
2-year period.
business that got involved in the parklets or some of the outdoor stuff.
Mhm,
I mean,
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, the burden of proof really is on the businesses to demonstrate their need and how this grant funding would help them not only respond to the hardship that they've had because of the pandemic, but also make significant advancements in their business. And they've got to show, if they say they're going to hire 5 people, they've got to be able to demonstrate that they've done that over the period of time. If they say they're going to increase revenues and whatever it is they say they're going to do, they then have to demonstrate that they have done that.
So, and I know this would change, but you have an application date of October 1st, October 30th in
Yeah,
there?
obviously we'll adjust
Obviously,
it.
that would change.
Mhm.
So this would be a whole new application process. You wouldn't be going from old applications from other programs?
Correct. Anyone who may have applied for a different program that didn't get selected because they didn't meet the specific criteria or whatever that case may be would have to reapply.
And my last question I have is, how would you say or defend to the people or the council as that this is just a duplication of other programs that we have approved? How would you defend that statement?
The criteria will be different, and there are, I guess, if you compare it to other programs, there may be some similarities, but the specific things that will be eligible, for instance, there is not a program that allowed a business to acquire any additional property or space. This program allows for that.
Okay.
And if they do apply and they belong in a different grant that we've not yet rolled out, we would funnel them to that and direct them to where it makes the most sense for them to go.
Would businesses that have already been approved for other grants that have capital from grants that are now spending it, would they also be approved to piggyback onto this grant if it passes through this council?
We would look to eliminate any, I guess, double dipping.
Right.
So applicants that have not already received funding would receive the highest priority. Should there be additional funds left over, perhaps we would allow businesses to apply for additional funds, but I think that, that would not be the goal. The goal would be to prioritize businesses who have not yet received funding.
Thank you.
I have a question. Would this apply, if somebody, is this new projects only, so it's not for anything that somebody already did and are asking for funds?
It could be for something they've already done because the criteria of ARPA allows us to backdate projects back to March 3rd of 2021, I believe was the date. And that was established through the US Treasury Department. So all of our grants allow us to retroactively approve a project as long as they are able to, the project meets all the criteria, they can show that they are, whatever they said, if they're adding staff, if they're retaining staff, whatever it is they say they're doing, they're able to demonstrate that, they're able to demonstrate the hardship, and they're able to show that it would help them survive, thrive, be able to continue doing business and or adapt their business in response to COVID, which is, as Mr. Champ reminds us, that it's gotta be in response to COVID.
And it could be a reimbursement.
It could be, yes.
I have a question. Do I have to give my name and everything again?
No, just briefly, because
You said that if a company didn't get approved the first time, they'd have type priority, but maybe there was a reason why they weren't approved, and so why should they automatically get priority?
They would not get they would not automatically get priority if they did not receive funding in another program
Right,
for whatever
but it might be a
reason.
different program and you made it sound like, well, they're gonna get type priority if they didn't get approved from this one.
No.
There might have been a reason why they didn't get approved.
Right, and we have all that information, so my department will be doing the evaluations. So if they didn't meet the criteria of another program, for whatever reason, we know what that reason is. It might not be because of anything they did or didn't do, it might just be because it wasn't, we're trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. So if this is a better match for them, and they've not already received any funding from a different program, that would give them a little bit of priority, yes. The priority, I guess the point of that was, priority is not going to be given to businesses that have already received funding.
Okay, resolution number 4, Jamestown City Council designates $750,000 in no cents in American Rescue Plan Act neighborhood stabilization funds for the purpose of creating a permanent 19A home ownership program. You did get some additional information in your packet that was asked to approve, that was asked about last meeting for you to review. I don't know if there were any other questions that came out of that we did not talk about in finance. Anyone? Okay. Moving forward, resolution number 5 was designating $1,500,000 and no cents to in American Rescue Plan Act Economic Development Funds for the purpose of funding a nonprofit assistance program to be administrated through the Jamestown Local Development Corporation by the Jamestown Urban Renewal Agency. Crystal, some people just want to give a smaller version of what was discussed in finance.
Sure, so this program came out of a number of nonprofit organizations that have approached the city and done presentations that have demonstrated the needs that they have and are seeking assistance as well. So in talking with the mayor and President Dulce, and this was presented last month in one of the work sessions as well. The idea was to create a program similar to the business programs that would be competitive and would give nonprofit organizations an opportunity to apply. Again, being able to demonstrate their hardship, demonstrating how they would use the funds, what the community benefit would be, and, you know, obviously placing the burden of that proof that they meet the ARPA criteria on the business, or the nonprofit organization that is applying.
Crystal, you had a lot of solicitations. Have not-for-profits come to you in that regard?
We've had a few, I think that sometimes they're, I don't wanna say used to not being prioritized for funding, but we have had a few that would certainly like to be able to apply for something, or have asked if there is anything that exists. But the ones that we've really heard from that are seeking the most funding actually came in and did presentations, so. I think that should this be approved and we open it up, I think we'll have a good number of nonprofit organizations apply. I don't doubt that at all.
And you're limiting each application or each entity $200,000.
Yeah, that's the suggested dollar amount.
The question came up at both, well, we had a discussion at the housing committee, but the question came up as to whether or not, even though they are 501c3 organizations, can they charge admission fees or membership fees for this funding? And it was raised, and I don't have an answer, and I don't know if Corporation Council has an answer as to whether or not that is contained within the ARPA regulations or now the coronavirus mitigation, or it's now called a new name. But is that a requirement? Because as was brought up, there are not-for-profits that anyone can come in, anyone can get a service like the soup kitchen, versus some others that might be requesting funds who do charge admission, or you have to be a member, and even though they may provide some free, the question became, I didn't know that, and I'd like an opinion as to whether or not that is actually true, and that is contained within the ARPA regulations.
Okay, you an answer.
But thinking about just now, we have a significant homeless issue, and, you know, my guess is there may be organizations that will want to address the homeless population that would be not-for-profits and don't charge admission fees, and maybe as it is a public health and safety issue, that may be something that could be a focus of our efforts, especially in this.
Well, to clarify, the $200,000 cap, it is written in there that anything over $200,000 would be considered on a case-by-case basis.
And would include a pilot program, just additional clarification. And any approval over $200,000 would require a negotiated pilot with that organization.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to the informational report, which we did not get to, but we understand it was also covered under housing. And that was the senior citizen housing program and general housing incentive program discussion. Just for clarification, everybody should have gotten their, did you give it to everybody or just finance?
I said to everyone.
Okay.
I said it to
Should have gotten their updated, I know it was emailed as well, updated,
Oh, sorry, I just emailed it to them all. Sorry,
That's okay.
I didn't get that.
Okay. So, basically, the bottom line is with all the proposals today, resolutions 2, 3, 4, and 5, it will leave us with roughly $5,113,782. I guess my question is, we have approved, just so everybody's aware with the senior housing and residential home improvement, already approved is $500,000 for each. And unless I'm missing something, I am not seeing the additional requests on here that we just keep moving.
I'm sorry?
The additional requests that were from the senior citizens, I'm not seeing that on here.
I can,
So the 5 million is actually less, in other words.
So it'd be
It'd be 4 million.
4.6.
No, it was 100, it was $1 million. Because they were requesting $500,000 more and moving 500,000. So that additional request for senior housing was 1 million, correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
it's
that's not the
just-
case. No,
It's
we were
just
just,
500,000, right?
Yep.
It's just an additional 500,000. There's $1 million approved that is split between the senior housing and then the additional rebate program.
Right,
And I think the request was for additional 500,000, but we'll double check.
okay, yes,
Yep.
but I think there's a misunderstanding in the numbers. So, to fill the senior citizen applications that you have, is it not $1.5 million?
It's another 900,000 over and above what we've already.
Okay, so it is $1.5 million total. So, the original approval was was an additional 500,000
And there was
new
Right.
and moving 500,000,
So the
That's
question is,
correct, yes.
where's,
okay?
You are
So,
the other 500,000?
so if we leave my point is if we leave the 500,000 in the residential home, their ask is $1 million. Just for clarification.
I think she wanted 1.5 million though.
She's already got 500,000.
Right.
So it's another roughly. So for
And that's
500,000,
that would satisfy all of the applications. Is that
For her to
correct?
satisfy all the applications, she needs $1,500,000 total.
So to your
500,000.
point, where is it being shifted from?
Correct.
So
Where?
there's,
I'm asking where.
Yeah.
So-
Correct.
so it would be-
I'm saying, where does it come from?
so the idea would be there's already a $500,000 line approved for senior housing. There's another $500,000 that's already been approved for a residential rebate program, which would be moved to the senior housing. This is just one of the proposals. This is, nothing's on here because you guys still have to discuss it.
Right.
And then we would add an additional 500,000 to fully fund the senior housing program. That would leave nothing for the residential rebate program.
So you would neglect the residential
That's
and
correct.
only take 500,000, or you leave the residential and you have to take $1 million, excuse me. Those are the options.
Which comes out to be obviously, if I'm doing that math correctly, a total of $2 million. If we did that, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Total for everything together, yes, it's a total $2 million,
Correct.
yes,
500, another million.
correct. If you left as it,
If you don't move it.
and that takes another
take another $1 million off.
million
you'd
off
be
of
at
that because you didn't put it
4.1.
in here in the first place, so another 500,000, if you did it that way.
Yep, if you had to take up to it, it could be
So
either
it'd be
4.6 or 4.1.
And
It's
I'm
not-
sure, other council members here have, like myself, have received phone calls, mail, cards,
Messages,
from seniors requesting, more funding be released by us because they have been, denied. I know I've said it at least a dozen times
Mhm.
that I support these programs and I want to continue to, I want to put more money into these programs. There are people that were denied, for various reasons, and I would like to see this funded again. And for some of these people not, I mean, I had a woman call me who lives on Palmer Street, who came to the United States as a little girl from Germany when Hitler was engaging in the Holocaust, and she escaped to the United States. And she needs work done on her house. She's having a hard time walking and moving now and doing stairs. There's stuff that needs to be done at her home, and she was denied funds. So, that's the person I'm thinking about, that I would like to see receive these funds.
Did you get them, the last of that was your income eligible and denied, or?
She didn't really go into details
Well, I'm
on it.
just saying, because, just to be clear, we've had this discussion
Right.
multiple times. If they are denied on, they're not income eligible, there's nothing that can happen to make them eligible. I'm just saying,
Right.
if it's, because we've had confusion over the categories, but if they are in the, you're eligible, but we don't have funding, it was kind of you might be, but to be clear, so that people don't misunderstand, just because you were denied, if we reallocate $2 million more, if you're not income
Sure.
eligible, you still will not get funded.
I don't think it was an income issue with her. I told her that I would pull her application myself and look at it, and try to get an idea of what's going on, but I don't think it was an income issue.
So the question comes down to, do you wanna leave the 500,000 in the other program and add another total of $1 million? Or do you wanna split it and take the money out of the other program? That's really what it comes down to.
Can I make a suggestion that, to refresh everybody's memory, that you send out what was actually approved on the residential one? Like what it would cover, if it was left?
That's the program itself? Sure.
Yep.
Just a
And
decision.
have those two options out there for everybody for the next voting session. Lisa, I don't know if you
Work
have anything
session.
else you want, or work session, Lisa, I don't know if you have anything you wanna add that I can touch base on?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay.
Well, if you
I think
want to
I
have her finish though, because what we went over was there was confusion about the reimbursement for contractors. And this might be a better time to just have her finish it all right now as opposed to waiting till housing. Because vendors and contractors are confused because seniors aren't clear on how this all gets paid, who gets paid. One program, the city pays it entirely on the roof program, and in the other program, you can be required to put down payment. But I'm going to let her explain it, because that's where the confusion, why I asked to have her come as well. Because contractors aren't clear about payment, and the seniors aren't clear necessarily. So if you don't mind, I just assume that we're finished, this all kinds of ties together. Do you mind, or let her do it now? Okay.
Basically, some of the contractors are requiring down payments, some aren't. If the homeowner has to pay a down payment, once the project is done, the contractor's gonna give me their final bill. The homeowner's gonna give me the proof that they paid down something. Then I will order from John checks, one for the homeowner, one for the contractor. And it'll take about 2 weeks to get the check.
But if that down payment is the 10% they have to match,
Yeah.
you're not gonna
Then
reimburse
no,
anyway.
No.
Correct.
But the issue that I've been getting is smaller contractors are concerned, the checks are only paid in the non-payroll week for the city. So their invoices need to be presented on the Monday of a non-payroll week to get checks issued that Thursday
Yeah.
and mailed out versus, so some of them, or the smaller contractors think they're having issues with the seniors calling them repeatedly, that they can't afford to let some of these costs ride for 3 weeks if they had to buy materials, et cetera, to do the project. So that's what I'm hearing from smaller contractors.
I get that, but that's hard to control.
It is, I mean, we're working with individual contractors, so if they haven't reached out to Lisa and her team, that's what they need to do. Because they've been very good, to the point where I think we've even cut checks on off times to try to get those. So if the contractor isn't reaching out to the city and talking to us, that's a bigger issue that we'll have to address. I do know that in some cases, our senior citizens are just working directly with the contractor, and it is causing confusion. And I know Lisa does an excellent job just working directly with that contractor. Am I right, Lisa? Yeah. So if you do get those questions, have those seniors just ask the contractor just to call the city, and we'll take care of it and work through it.
That was it all from there.
Thank you. A lot of stuff. Next would be housing, so Marie, anything else?
We didn't have any resolutions, but I am going to let Crystal explain what she discussed at the meeting on the homeownership. You want to go ahead, Crystal, about Eagle View and what was going
Sure.
on with that?
And I apologize, I did not make extra copies, but I did send this, flow chart out previously to the full council, so we just kind of brought this back for some discussion. Basically, Marie had asked if I would, similar to Lisa, just explain what our process is for the roof program. Once, homeowners have been approved, which they've all been notified at this point, the next step in that is, we've already established our list of contractors. I am happy to say, though, that we continue to add contractors to our roof repair and replacement program list, which is great. Contractors will go and inspect the properties that are assigned to them, so because we have this established list, we are actually, in order to try to streamline and get through as many roofs as possible before the snow flies, we are going through our list and assigning contractors, to the properties. We also are working with B&L Wholesale. They have a program called Eagle View, which gives us an estimate of the roof square footage so that we know whatever the contractor is submitting for an estimate. We've kind of got our own and we can make sure that we're getting fair estimates. Once those are compared and looked at, any adjustments that need to be made are made. We then have a contract process, so the applicant has a contract with the city and the contractor does as well. Then once those contracts have been approved, the contractor is given the authority to go ahead and move forward with work. The city and, so we're sending an inspector out, and the applicant homeowner also has to verify that work has been done to everyone's satisfaction. Everybody signs off on that. Then we issue payment to the contractor, and because there is a 5-year anti-speculation agreement as part of our contract, we then will file that lien with the county. So I'm happy to send this out again to anybody that would like to see it, but different from the senior citizen program, we are actually paying the contractor directly.
I tried to shut the blind to the window, sorry about that.
So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
And you did indicate eligibility varied on that because it depended on the number of people in the household, the maximum amount that you could.
Yeah, the income requirement for that program was 120% of area median income. So it was quite a bit higher than our normal HUD programs and other income qualified programs. For a one-person family, I believe it was around 92,000 was the allowable income. So families with multiple people, obviously that number increases. So I don't believe there were any applicants that were denied the program because of their income.
And that was, as a reminder to City Council, that came out of the discussion that you all had in the original ARPA session.
Just to go that, Lisa told us 10 of the 75 projects that were funded have had the work done and paid already. So 10 were completed so far, the invoices were all submitted, and the process is they're kind of getting it down, so it's a lot smoother. And also that Crystal did indicate you're doing the worst roofs, trying to get them done right now because we're running out of time. But all of those, obviously they're not all going to get done now. They will probably be pushed into the spring, and they talked about how they can secure those roofs until they can get them done in the spring because there were quite a few that were pretty severely in need of replacements. The only, if you don't have interest about that, the only other discussion again was part of the land bank, and what the funds would be used for in terms of, how many demolitions, the average cost being between $30,000 and $45,000. What's currently budgeted doesn't pay for more than 3 or 4 at the most in a year with what's funded under the HUD budget. And right now we have a list of at least 50 properties to demo. We have 4 contractors that can do it, about 6 regionally, but you have to be licensed in case there's asbestos or lead. And they're considering doing an RFP to hope to attract other contractors to the area that might be able to do more and do them at a little bit cheaper cost. That was it.
The only thing I forgot to mention on the finances in your packet, you also got the preliminary 2023 budget calendar for the work sessions. I know the mayor will probably expand on his executive budget release, but just wanted to get those dates and the committees in front of you.
Sorry, Kim, I didn't mean to cut
That's
you
okay.
off on you.
It'll just be emailed out. Sorry, you needed it at 3 o'clock today, so.
We wanted to get it to council in advance. I know there's been requests to have earlier sessions, and so we wanted to get your feedback on it before we finalize the schedule. And
Take a look at it, and if you have any objections or anything different.
Okay, move on to public safety.
We have the same resolution, the finance did, this academy is something that has been going on for quite a number of years. The curriculum is set, it's something weekly for 3 hours. 12 to 15 people will be in the class, it'll be held in City Hall. And just to remind people, this was something that came out of the Police Reform Commission. Approved. We did have a brief discussion on some issues that were found with the reapportionment plan. There's so many boundaries there, and I forwarded some information to the Corporation Council. And had a chance to look at that, and anything to report back to us at this point?
We have to redo Ward 3.
They have to redo Ward 3.
Yes, as far as some of those lines. I know we didn't touch it as far as the reapportionment
Right.
committee was done this year, but, we've had some issues with that specifically along the river.
With the verbal wording of the boundary.
Yes, and the mayor, my office, the mayor, we've contacted surveyors, so we get it exactly right.
What about the 2 micro districts and things that we formed? Would be good if they were more than different wards.
Yes, it wasn't properly, written out, so those districts weren't covered in the current wards, however, there's no one living in those districts, to my knowledge. So, it was, a matter of Ward 3.
We'll get you an update, Brett, on where the surveyors have. They had called and chatted with Mr. Mondo's office and our office about the final language, and they had a couple questions, and we gave them information about the districts. So we'll get an update and get it over to the council this week.
And we had a discussion about trick-or-treating hours for Halloween. Traditionally, it's been held between 6 and 8 p.m. Police chief would like to have that moved up to 5 to 7 p.m. We can vote on that and say it should be 6 to 8, but we would like that to open that up for discussion for the rest of the council for other input at this point. We do know that there will not be a Halloween Fun Fest, but the Parks Department may be discussing a trunk or treat event. They're having a meeting tomorrow to talk about that. But
What about a compromise, 5:30 to 7:30? That gives people at least a chance to get home from work at 5 o'clock.
that was a concern of Councilman Russell, 5 o'clock.
That's before daylight savings ends, correct?
Correct.
But, yeah, but it's
Fair.
still-
Still, it gets dark,
It'll be dark.
Yeah.
is that,
It doesn't matter to me. I guess it's just also the difficult part of people that want to participate if they work till 5, like answering the door, they're not home yet, they're not physically able to do that. And then the other part would be, we do get stragglers even after 8 o'clock. You know, it's kind of like, are they gonna extend it out anyways? People aren't gonna, it doesn't matter, it's not a.
I think likely to 7:30 will make it consistent with what they're doing, but the other issue is if you can't do it at 5 o'clock, you don't turn your light on until you get ready in your
yeah,
home.
I like 5:30, that at least
Yeah,
gives
I-
people an opportunity to get home from work that do like to participate.
I think what I brought up wasn't the matter of turning your light on, participating, it was being a working parent, being home at 5 o'clock,
All getting their kids
and
out.
getting your
Kid out the door.
kid in their costume and getting ready and getting out there. And, I would like to see 6 to 8.
Any other input?
Mr. Mayor, I think this would be a good time for, make an announcement with the Post Journal and everything, because the new, like all the fentanyl that's coming in is candy colored now, they look like Skittles. To make sure you warn the parents to to check their candy, because this is an ideal opportunity for whoever wants to destroy kids and everything else that, the things that are coming into the United States now, you know, are very deadly.
We typically do that in the press release, thank you.
I agree with 6 to 8, I mean, half the time, they go out at 5:30, 5:45 anyway.
That's right.
You're right.
They go out early and they stay late.
Yeah.
If the lights are still on. We have people come to the door when the lights are off, we can still come at
Yeah.
8:15,
Have no
8:30.
more
You
kids.
get hundreds of kids up there.
Yeah. I can't, it's too late.
Halloween rumor is President Dulce is the best candy on the block.
I heard it gives away full size.
Usually get about
Full
400.
bars, make sure the media prints that, check that, no, full size.
Try, I don't buy it, my wife does. It doesn't matter, whatever.
6 to 8.
I guess the consensus is 6 to 8.
Whatever.
All right, finally, the city will be co-sponsoring a rate study. We always have November 5th. More information will be following. I'll get more details for time, location.
For when is that?
November 5th, the annual rabies clinic.
Rabies, okay.
There you go.
I just might want to make a quick comment, follow up to Mr. Jan, as far as, he brought up the Bearcat. For those that aren't aware what a Bearcat is, it's a brand name of, a vehicle that SWAT teams uses, is full armored up. I was on the SWAT team with, Chief Jackson for approximately 10 years. Did hundreds of drug raids and, high-risk search warrants, barricaded subjects, one time hunted for Bucky Phillips. And that is true. We were in a non-armored van most of the times. It was,
Bread truck.
it was a bread truck or an old ambulance, that we used. So it was kind of scary at times when you're going into situations like that and you're in a vehicle that has no armor. I know in the past that it's been brought up with the past administration about purchasing a Bearcat, and it was always about funding. There's somewhere between $250,000 to $275,000. Chief, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So it was always a funding issue, would not be able to buy that. Obviously, and also, it's, with some people, it's about appearance. People don't like the idea of that militaristic look of having something like that, because frankly, it's kind of mean looking. And they don't like that presence or that look. I think we need to get over that. If we have the funding for such a vehicle, God forbid if we ever have an active shooter situation and you need to put a SWAT team out there or a tactical team to possibly go in and extricate victims, you don't want to send your TAC team in a non-armored van to be pulling people out. They're not going to have any cover. So we need to get over the appearance of what this looks like and see what it is, and that's to protect citizens and also protect the men and women officers that are going to be using this vehicle.
I was wondering if, has anybody checked out if there would be any state or federal aid for a vehicle like that?
I have not found any. If there is, I've not been able to find it.
Yeah, I thought years past, the federal government actually gave us a vehicle that was a hand-me-down. I could be wrong, but I thought I'd seen it.
Not to my knowledge for SWAT.
Yeah.
The sheriff's department got one from the federal government
Okay, that's why I would
years, decades ago.
I thought theirs, they actually bought an old Brinks truck.
No, I think they had an island car too.
I don't think they have one now.
Probably not.
They have an old truck that they collected, like Councilman Russell said, from donations from businesses that they basically built. It might be a Brinks, I don't know what it was exactly, but.
It was an idea anyway.
It is on our grant radar,
Okay.
however.
Thank you.
There was no public works agenda, we just had a brief question, I know Jeff is not here tonight.
Jeff is not, no, he's on vacation.
Leaf pickup schedule, do you have it on here? I've been asked by a few people when the leaf.
To my knowledge, it is not yet scheduled. I don't know if we've had enough leaves falling yet, but I'll double check.
No, I just.
It's not been, we have no leaf schedule as it currently stands.
Okay.
But we'll follow up with
I
it.
mean, at least not that it starts, but at least to see when they're gonna start, where, so people know what side of town and what week, and, I mean, I know it.
Usually put ads in the paper.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
put a.
They do, yep.
There are leaves falling.
You bring up another point about the water flushing has started, and check your schedule, because if you don't, you could have oily water, and if you're on the edge of, you may want to be careful on 2 days, because you could have oily water, even though it's not your water main flushing day, so check the schedule or call the EPU to get the information.
They leave messages.
Yeah, but not everybody, it
Has a phone.
depends if you haven't got the phone updated with the BPU, you're not gonna get a phone call. And it would
Started on
help,
the first ward today.
it would help save complaints about people who didn't realize it and didn't save any water and have a laundry issue because they lost clothes.
We do have the schedule on the front page of the city's website, on top, as well as the BPU. So.
But just to make sure people are aware, it started a little bit earlier this year. And also about there will be another bulk trash pickup, but I cannot, and I apologize, I cannot remember the date.
The 8th, this Saturday.
Yep, the
It's
Saturday.
It's in Allen Park, to let people know again that it's.
What's the hours on
Sorry.
Oh,
10 to 2, yes. I was just looking for it.
Yeah, no, but it's, what people, I think it's probably on websites, but you gotta know to look for it, it's in that regular.
Okay, you're up.
Great. I only have one item for council tonight, just to let council members know that we are finalizing the media package for the text message, email, and phone call alert system. So council members, you should start seeing drafts of the postcards and press releases and media that will be going out. So we'll be sent to you so you all are aware what may be hitting mailboxes and newspapers, in case you have any folks ask. Pretty much what we're doing is we'll be mailing out postcards that have either, you could scan the QR code, or you could text the emergency number that we have, or you could go right to the city's website and log in with your phone number and subscribe for various categories of messages. So we'll make sure that you all have that information about it in advance, as people might call and say, hey, is this a legitimate thing? So that you can let folks know, and we'll also be pushing it out, ads in the newspaper, as well as other things.
Crystal, the other one is 8 to 12.
I was gonna say,
That's what
yes,
I want
I'm,
to look for.
yep, it's 8 to
8 to
noon,
noon.
not 10 to 2.
Yeah.
I was looking out that day, 10 to 2, so I'm mixing up the two. So 8 to noon for the Amnesty Bulk Trash Day
Thank you.
at Allen Park. Sorry,
No problem. And don't forget to take your trash to Allen Park.
If you wanna borrow.
not your trash, your
Not your trash.
bulk
Bulk
items.
items.
Well,
Your bulk items.
No garbage bags. Electronics as well.
No air conditioners or
no,
refrigerators with 3 hours.
no painters,
Before that you
no.
send
The claims.
Yes.
So other than that, I do want to just, we'll make one comment. You may have seen in the newspaper today, the governor announced the arrival of Electrovia in right outside the city limits in Ellicott. That's taking, I think, Anderson Precision's building. I could be wrong on that specific building. It is a battery cell assembly plant that will employ 250 to 300 people. And the electricity and the utilities will actually be coming from the BPU. So certainly, not only will it employ residents here in the city, but we'll be utilizing city utilities. So that's certainly a big thing, And one of the many things we as a city have been doing to try to attract green companies here to Jamestown, although as I said, it's right outside the city. That's unfortunately the space, the amount of space that they needed for it was kind of the area that they found. But we're excited to see that, excited to see new manufacturers into the area, and hopefully we'll have a positive impact on the work we do here.
Anderson Precision.
Yeah, it's not Anderson
Maybe it
Precision
wasn't
Company.
Anderson, I'm sorry.
We're talking about Heidenman,
It's Heidenhaus.
Heidenhaus.
right,
Yes.
actually, right?
Yes, accurate.
Accurate.
Please excuse me.
Not the one up on
Mason Park.
It's on Mason
Yeah.
Drive.
Thank you, appreciate the clarification. I knew it was one of those, but
I
couldn't.
don't know if Anderson's. Just outside.
Other than that, I don't have any other items.
We have 4 claims that I know that you wanted to cover.
Yes.
Briefly.
Brief.
Okay. Under executive session, so, motion to go into executive session for 4 claims. Second, all in favor?